Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series, Interviews with Disciples and Devotees. And today, I introduce you to a dear friend, Srinivas Murthy. Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
The first question I always ask everyone is, how did you first hear of Sri Aurobindo and Mother?
Sometime in 80s, one of my cousins, he said, there is Sri Aurobindo Ashram. I was a kind of an atheist at that time. So I said, okay, let us go and see. So I was first very much impressed with the beautiful flower arrangements and the discipline. There was something in the air and the atmosphere which I was very happy. But I didn't know about the Mother or Sri Aurobindo. And then we had a meal at the dining room, which was very attractive.
What year of the 80s, roughly?
84 December.
84 December. Oh, so you remember that so well.
I think we came on the fourth night. We were here for
the darshan.
Yes.
So you had a meal in the dining room.
Yes.
And then?
It was, I think, a little unconsciously that Mother has entered into my life, because I didn't really read. I only heard about the Mother and Sri Aurobindo, and my cousin used to keep on talking about the Mother and Sri Aurobindo. I said, you're talking about an old lady saying that she is divine. So I said, in the normal, the Indian way, you look at Goddess Saraswati and the beautiful pictures we have. So I said, she doesn't look that beautiful. So I used to argue with him, but
I've had many people tell me this in interviews.
It was same. So I didn't really think the divine can be in a human form like this. So it was my mind. But I think something in me has responded perhaps to the Mother's call. So that's what I feel now. And slowly, gradually, without my knowing, we kept coming to the ashram, and then here I am, by her grace.
What was your background education? Family?
I've done commerce in graduation, then I've done my chartered accountancy. At that time only, while we were going for the exams, then we got introduced to the ashram. So it was, no one in my family knew about Mother or Sri Aurobindo. They never had been to Pondicherry. So I was kind of a first one in the family to discover Pondicherry and Mother and Sri Aurobindo.
Did any of the others catch on after a while?
Yes, I think my sisters, younger one and elder one, both have got influenced in a way through me. So we were quite close to the center in Kakinada, where I come from, Andhra Pradesh. So they've come to ashram regularly and they're devoted since then. So I'm happy.
Have you read much of Sri Aurobindo and Mother?
Very little, I would say. I read Sri Aurobindo's The Mother, Savitri. And I keep reading only the small anecdotes and Mother's quotes. I don't read long, so I read once in a while.
Now, you have served with many secretaries. Can you give us a little history of your service?
I joined Auroville in 1995. Even the opportunity was a rarer in my view, because I didn't know that there was a kind of a post or a vacancy in Auroville. Someone from the ashram, he said, are you interested if there is a post in Auroville? So I said, I would love that. So then I got to know the advertisement, then I applied for it. I think I was one among the 12 people who were called for an interview. So it was a long story. I was not well, but somehow I was determined to come and attend the interview. I was at the time in Hyderabad.
Who were the interviewers, if you can remember any?
Yes, Dr. Suresh De, who was, I think, the second secretary of Auroville. Dr. Suresh De, IPS, now retired, he is in Pondicherry. And another one was Mr. Adavi, who is from the Ashram, who served in the central government. And there was another retired gentleman from the Pondicherry government. So these three were the panelists.
Why, if you can tell me, why did you think they selected you?
I must confess, I think it was sheer grace, because I didn't do much in the first round, and they had shortlisted 4 people. I came to know later that I was having kind of fever at that time, so I wanted to attend the interview. I was just newly married at the time, 6 months, not even 4 months. And I came with my wife because I could not travel alone. So having attended the first interview, I thought my job is over, so let's go. So it seems I was shortlisted in the first round, one among the 4. Then I left because I just had a cup of tea and left. I thought, I have done my bit. Then my friend in the ashram said, you are in the list of the first 4. You are number 2 in the list. Then I told my wife, if I am number 2, I will be selected. But there was only one post. The first person, I think he had laid down certain conditions to join the post, the vacant post. So I had no conditions. So I had a kind of a feeling that I would get this job when I was listed too. So it was miraculous. It is only grace.
Now this was in, what you told me, what year?
1995.
1995, huh? So you had just been married.
Yes.
And who was the secretary at that time?
Dr. Suresh De, IPS.
Okay.
He served till 1996. He retired in March 1996. So he appointed me.
Ah, very good.
He was a devotee. He's a devotee.
It's interesting that ashram people interviewed you for this position, or at least some ashram people.
Yes. I mean, he was a government servant, former government servant, Mr. Adavi. He might have settled in the ashram, but he had joined the panel of interviewers in the capacity of a retired central government servant.
I see.
Very senior person, Mr. Adavi. But they had an ashram connection, wonderful connection.
Yes, yes.
Fortunate for me.
How many have you served under?
6. Dr. Suresh De. Then we had Mr. Balabhaskar. Then we had Mr. S.R. Sharma. Then Mr. Ramaswamy. Mr. Chunkat. Again, Mr. Balabhaskar.
I believe I had a connection with an even earlier person from then 95. I forget his short name. And
Tripathi? You met Mr. Tripathi?
no,
It could be Suresh De. He was a devotee.
could have been. Yes, could have been. At the time, Roger and I were discussing things in the Matrimonial Gardens, and we had to remove a lot of the aerial roots from the banyan tree because they had put too many down. And the secretary stood with me and Roger stood with me.
That must be Mr. S.R. Sharma. Sharma.
Might have been him. Yes, yes, yes. How are the secretaries chosen usually? I know that I believe Mr. Modi chose Dr. Ravi,
Yes.
but how are the others chosen?
They have a system in the government which is a very high level committee which advertises the post, and then they select from all over India senior officers of a certain rank called joint secretary and above. So I think they were looking for someone who has an understanding of the ashram, or at least they are aware of Mother and Shivindu,
Ah, okay.
and who have been a little conversant with Tamil Nadu government, because we are in Tamil Nadu, and a person who is senior enough to handle number of foreign nationals living in Auroville. It's a little sensitive post in my view.
So those three things are rather important.
Yes, in my view, these are.
Yes, they're very important, actually, yes. I don't ever have anything negative in my interviews. So I want you to know, with the hundreds and many, many hundreds of people, I've kept it just positive, because we have to be positive. How do you see the progress of Auroville at the moment?
I think we are at a certain critical phase. Maybe it is like the takeoff stage. So there are a lot of, I would say, disturbances which are perhaps preparing for the takeoff. Auroville has been growing at a slow pace, I would say. So now I think the process has been speeded up. So in that accelerated development, there are bound to be certain disturbances to the existing systems or status quo, which are, I think, necessary for the growth. I would look at it very positively because I am also an optimist.
Yes.
So they are difficult sometimes to go through when you are in the middle of it, but I think it is necessary for the growth.
Do you know, or are you close to, or have been close to, any ashram people? And could you tell us about them?
Certainly, I must first name Madhav Panditji, who has been sort of my guide and guru. A young man, I had not known much about ashram. So again, my cousin brought me to him, introduced me. So I used to ask for his guidance on many things. And till his passing, we were bothering him with small things and guidance. Later, I was fortunate to have met Dr. Narad. He was very kind, and he came to our house and blessed us also. Not once, 3 times.
3 times.
So we feel very, very fortunate. And we have been having the good fortune of meeting some of the senior sadhaks in the ashram, like Hutaben.
You met Huta?
Yes. And she was very fond of our family. So we were fortunate. So I had taken the blessings of Champakalalji when we were very... Champakalalji. I mean, he won't touch you, but he will give you the blessings. So I think like that, Kumudben from the... I think quite a few of them, we are fortunate to have known them, have met them, who have been... I think they were fortunate to have served the mother, and some of them Shivindu. I feel very lucky to have met them because I could not see the mother or Shivindu.
You're speaking of all my friends.
I know.
So, Tell me a little bit about your work in Auroville.
It started like a simple finance officer position, but it was, I think from day one, it was purely administrative work. So I have actually done a little bit of finance in my chartered accountancy at the intermediate level, but slowly the administrative work was quite interesting, so I had taken up the administration more, and it is general superintendence and management in Auroville, which is mainly to do with the visas and administration. Like you have to run a lot of units in Auroville, coordination with services, coordination with the Government of India and Government of Tamil Nadu. So it is a very interesting work. I was very new to the governmental procedures and ways of functioning because I was working in the private sector before joining Auroville. So I learnt it thanks to my seniors, all the secretaries with whom I have learnt a lot. First was Dr. Suresh Dey, who had been like my mentor. Then I had learnt a lot through Mr. Balabhaskar, who is still guiding whenever I need any help. So I think we have been extremely fortunate to have such secretaries who were not all devotees, but who were all really men of goodwill, real goodwill. So they have helped Auroville in many ways, and directly under the chairmanship of Dr. Karan Singh, Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, Professor Kirit Joshi.
Joshi, yes.
I worked directly under Professor Kirit Joshi also.
Oh.
So it was a great experience to work with all these great people. Very simple, humble, highly learned people.
Can you give me a little insight on how the government is now helping Auroville? I know that Mr. Modi is definitely devoted to Sri Aurobindo.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it is a blessing because he is perhaps the first Prime Minister who had mentioned Sri Aurobindo in his speech on the 15th August. And ever since his taking over as a Prime Minister of India, on every such public occasions, he has always taken Sri Aurobindo's name. So I think he is definitely guided and blessed by Sri Aurobindo, and I think India is fortunate to have him taking the lead and putting India on the not only the spiritual and the world map.
Yes. I gave him the water from the Jamuna.
Yes.
When he came. It was a beautiful ceremony. I heard his speeches on Sri Aurobindo. They are exemplary.
Absolutely. I think he's a very, very sincerely devoted and he knows about Sri Aurobindo. I heard it was Professor Kirit Joshi who has perhaps introduced Sri Aurobindo to Sri Modi. He might have known before, but I think it is thanks to Professor Kirit Joshi. He had known more about Ashram and Auroville. Later we heard that he had been to Ashram and Auroville.
Prior to his
being the Prime Minister.
Oh, interesting. I understand that the government is looking closely at Auroville.
Absolutely. I feel after the 50th anniversary of Auroville, when the Prime Minister of the country, India, had visited Auroville and gave a speech, he had mentioned that we are closely following on Auroville. We want Auroville to grow. So they have a special concern for Auroville that it should grow on the lines of what Mother and Sri Aurobindo had envisaged. So I feel it is a privilege that the Prime Minister of the country of 1.3 billion people can take a small organization like Auroville with 3,200 people. So I think it is a golden opportunity for Auroville to grow into the right position as envisaged by the Mother, with the guidance and help of the Prime Minister and the government, central government. They are very, very supportive, and thanks to the present Secretary, Dr. Ravi, we have an excellent rapport with the central government. They are encouraging all the projects of Auroville, and 150th birth anniversary of Sri Aurobindo has been taken up seriously, and Prime Minister himself is the chairperson of the committee, celebration committee. So which shows the importance given to the ashram and Auroville. So I think it's a great privilege. I think we should be able to really take advantage of this and grow well.
Do you feel that the ashram and Auroville is going to come closer to each other? I know there was a separation for a long time, and that was a serious problem because I know that Pranab didn't want the students to get involved in drugs, and it was the only rule Mother made, no drugs. So can you give me a little on
I
that?
think more than ever before, Ashram and Auroville are coming closer. Just today we have had all those people who had participated in the inauguration ceremony of Auroville, who are from the ashram. About 60 people have come to Auroville.
Yes, Dr. Ravi was just telling me.
So it is a beautiful gathering. So there are more and more bridges, I would say, and joint ventures and collaboration.
Joint ventures.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
The solar energy related works, which are being very well done by Auroville, they have helped ashram to put solar power plants in the dining room, ashram dining room, and ashram main building. A lot of things are happening. It's a collaboration. And there are certain architectural and interior design works where ashram and Auroville are also collaborating. There's some projects. And at the level of education, there are certain exchanges happening. We invite the ashram trustees and some of the teachers to visit the schools and advise. So I feel at various levels, like in Bharat Nivas, for all the cultural programs, we invite some of the senior ashramites to participate. And a lot of senior sadhaks from the ashram, they come and deliver lectures in Savitri Bhavan.
Can you give me some names?
Dr. Alok Pandey and Dr. Ananda Reddy. And it used to be Professor Manoj Das, who recently passed away.
Yes.
And we have Dr. R.Y. Deshpande. I think there are quite a few people who come. Some of them are younger, they also come regularly, like Devdeep, Shradhalu.
Good, very good. I'd like to ask you a bit about education as you see it in Auroville and in India, because this is very important that Mother's system of education be widespread in India, in the world eventually, but especially in India, to get out of the old British consciousness. Please.
I think Auroville is still trying to experiment with the free progress system, which has been tried and tested in the ashram. So we have up to the level of primary and upper primary, higher secondary education in Auroville. They follow the ashram free progress system, and they also give an option for the students to follow the regular stream of education. But I think the Ashram and Auroville experiments in the education system have proved to be quite successful. From the fact that all the students who have come out of this education system have been able to adapt themselves to the challenges of whether it is a professional course later on, or getting employment later on, or being a kind of a researcher or a lifelong learner in education. I think they have all been very successful in their endeavors and efforts. I think these systems have produced brilliant people in different walks of life.
And India? Education in India?
I think it's a very vast subject, and the systems that are proposed from the ashram and Auroville have contributed a little bit, but I also see a number of systems within India. They're going away from the old British systems of Machiavellian systems of education. There are certain Gurukula systems that have been started, and there are slightly diluted Navodaya schools which are running in India. Some of them have started taking some guidance from Montessori.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a few schools which are following the Theosophical Societies systems, like Jiddu Krishnamurthy, the school they have, which is not following the normal system of examinations and grading and all that. So, but it is still at a very primary or a primitive stage of development. I think it has to grow to the level of spreading to most of the states in the country. Then you can say, yes, we are getting back to the traditional Indian system of education, which is based on the Gurukula system.
And the Vedas? Yes, yes, yes.
Where it is more of an example by which they have taught rather than books and texts.
And how do you feel it's going in terms of progress in India?
I think the basic Indian mind is quite adaptive to any system. Generally, I feel the level of IQ or openness to any system is quite high in the Indian psyche. So, whatever system it is, they have been able to master it, and they have been able to grow beyond it. This I believe, because if you see the top CEOs in the world of all the big companies, you can find Indians there.
Oh, yes.
Name it, you have it. So, and a lot of the people who have studied the same formal education system, at a certain time, they've given up all their professional and educational pursuits. They have turned to spirituality. Or they've started certain things like, I want to do organic farming. Who was a great software engineer, left everything, who had proved himself, but wanted to do simple farming and take the farmers to a certain, a level of knowledge, inculcating that this can be done by all of us. So that switch over from whatever you have achieved in your life, in your formal education system, if one is able to give it up and then do something of the heart that you want to pursue, in my view, that is the best way to grow as a human being.
Do you ever have the opportunity to meet people from India, from different positions in India, where you're sitting now?
Yes, I think where I am, I've been very fortunate to have met many successful people who have made a mark in their line, in their profession, in their work. And when they come to places like Ashram and Auroville, you can see the humility that they have. They say, wow, wonderful things are happening here. How can we help? There must be CEOs in large MNCs and professors and emeritus and a lot of people, but they are so humble and they want to help and serve people. So I was fortunate because I'm in Auroville to receive some people and ambassadors and all the diplomats sometimes. So it's really humbling to see and meet such people.
Yes. Sort of out of the line, but I'm interested in India and China and what you might be able to share with us, and India and Russia also.
I think we have a wonderful long-standing friendship with Russia. Except for the Nehruvian period, the India-China, somehow India has not been really looked upon as a friend by China. Though we have gone out of the way during the Nehru's period to be friendly with them, but the 70s war proved to be, it was backstabbing by China. So what, as a young man, I see is that it's not really trustworthy from the Indian point of view.
I spoke with General Tiwari about this, and he said the same thing.
I was just thinking of General Tiwari because I thought of him because he shared a lot of things about China war where he was. But I think with Russia, we have always been friendly and they have been helping. But the current scenario is very difficult to understand what's happening. And China, I think they have only their interest of trade and business, nothing else. Whereas I think India, whatever be the government, the party, there is a certain level of trust that I think India always has for any neighbor, which doesn't seem to be, reciprocated with China especially. So that's why. But we have quite a few people from China in Auroville.
I was going to ask about that. Was my next question.
They're very fine people. There are many fine artists from China, and they're very good people. Wonderful human beings. Individuals are, I think, wonderful people. But as a nation, as a government, perhaps there are certain things which, as an individual, I can't understand. But I think there is a certain reservation with China. Quite a few people in the ashram also from China. Not as many as in Auroville.
No. And the diversification in Auroville, what can you tell us about that?
We have almost like a mini world or mini Europe, they call it India is. So we have in Auroville. So we feel we are almost like United Nations there. We have people from 60 countries and the number is growing.
Oh, it's growing.
It's growing. The number of countries represented are, it used to be 51, 52. Now we are 61 one, I think. We have people from Iceland, from Tunisia, from Morocco. A lot of people are coming. I think it's a place for human unity on the ground, not in philosophy or lecture, but in reality we have to live together, work together, and feel one as a human being.
Where do you live in Auroville?
I've been living in Promise ever since I
Promise.
Yes.
Where I began.
Oh, what?
I was next to Piero.
Oh. I believe Popo also used to live there.
Popo was there also. Yeah, he designed a garden there. And
Tea
a
garden.
pool, I think of.
Yes.
Yes. So you're there with your family.
Yes.
Any children?
I have a daughter who is born and brought up in Auroville. And she studied in Auroville.
How old is she?
She's 22.
22. So she's still in Auroville?
Yes. After finishing her graduation in engineering, aerospace, she has joined Auroville Consultancy.
Oh, wonderful.
She's doing a project with Auroville Consulting. So she's happy there, working there.
And your wife?
My wife is also very much part of Auroville. She has just become an Aurovillian.
Oh, how wonderful. Wonderful. Now, in the future, when Mother said it would take 50,000 people to create a paradigm for the new world, how do you see the movement going? I know it's a difficult question.
Yeah, but I think it is at the stage, as I was saying, it is at the takeoff stage. So we need to make certain preparations for the people to join Auroville. Mainly housing, which I think the Secretary is very much concentrating on, how to create proper housing, large scale.
Important.
Yes. And then we need to have proper work for them. We need to have good projects where they can engage themselves, which are in tune with the ideals of Auroville. That will definitely make the population grow to the required number. But I think we need not be very much worried about the numbers, but we should be worried about the quality of the members.
Yes, very true. Very true.
Because it should not become a kind of a place for retreat for people. Since this is a place meant for those who believe in Mother's vision. If you do not believe in the Mother's vision, I think then it will become a kind of a retreat or a place where one can retire oneself.
Retirement place, yes. And that we do not want, of
No,
course.
that would defeat the very purpose of Auroville, It's a place of karma yoga, I think, as Mother and Shubindu have said. So we have to work for the new world, for the development of the city as her vision is. And I think we will grow. Now, the movements that are taking place in Auroville will be more and more conducive for the growth of Auroville, paving ways for people to join Auroville. The challenge is to admit the right kind of people.
Yes, yes. What about drugs?
It seems that is one of the major issues that Auroville has been grappling since its inception. But I think we have not been able to completely eliminate that. Though our friends in Auroville say it is not a major issue, now it is very minor at a very small percentage of people who may be using. But I've been trying to at least argue with our friends in Auroville that one thing Mother had said very clearly, no to drugs, and I have photocopied the page where she had underlined 3 times no drugs. if we can work on that particular aspect, I think there will be a greater opening for Auroville to grow.
Oh, I'm throwing a lot of questions at you.
I
What
hope
do
I
you
can.
feel about encroachment from squatters?
It's happening because some of the Aurovillians, I think, are giving it away. Maybe because of their personal or family reasons, and sometimes they have friends, and a lot of Aurovillians seem to be using Auroville for other purposes. So why not? So the neighbors or people who are taking advantage of the situation, they see what is happening in Auroville. They see a lot of Auroville residents misusing Auroville. So they are taking advantage of some of these issues, and then perhaps they are trying to encroach upon Auroville properties. It's, I think, a recent trend, but we are trying to put a lot of systems in place where these kind of encroachments can be handled. Since 4 or 5 years, we have got a dispensation from central government that there is an estate officer. So the secretary is an estate officer. So she can conduct quasi-judicial proceedings and then remove people.
Oh,
So I think the message is going across. So there will be, in future, more attempts may be there, but less of their success to encroach upon Auroville properties. There will be legal implications, but that's fine.
always, yes.
Yes.
Traffic. It's almost impossible now to get through in those areas where all these businesses are starting up.
It's a bit of a concern, and I think we are all feeling the need for some kind of a regulation or filtering of the traffic, because every weekend we have thousands of vehicles coming into Auroville.
Lorries especially.
Absolutely. So this is not a desirable development, but it has become a touristic attraction that you see a golden globe. So people come here from all over the country and all over the world. So I think we need to keep a kind of entry points on the highways where one can be educated upon what is Auroville, and so that people who have some curiosity what it is can be satisfied with the information and certain exhibitions, and some restaurants of Auroville can be there. And those who are serious, who would like to know what is this experiment, only can come in. So we need to do it on both the highways, the East Coast Road as well as National Highway. So then the traffic inside can be much reduced. And I think recently the Secretary has thought of electric vehicles which can be flying from Pondicherry to Auroville. I think that will be a wonderful idea to reduce the traffic pollution, number of outside vehicles getting.
Excellent idea.
I think if she can get this organized, Auroville will be transformed.
Motorcycles are a problem. The pollution that they create.
Yes. It's growing at a very alarming pace, but there is a small relief, at least we can say. We have added more than 500 electric cycles and two-wheelers in Auroville. So within Auroville, the traffic, though it has increased, I think there's a lot of electric vehicular movement, so which is somehow balancing. But from outside, we don't yet have anything concrete. If we have, like battery operated buses electric vehicles that can fly from Pondicherry to Auroville, then it can reduce the two-wheeler traffic. Everyone who comes to Pondicherry, they hire a motorcycle, they come to Auroville.
Yeah, yeah. For 200 rupees a day.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I had a question, and I felt it was important for me to ask you, and that is, how can vehicles that have no importance in Auroville be prevented from using what is now considered a government road, is it?
Yeah, it's a little difficult task to control this vehicular movement because most of the roads are public roads. But within Auroville, the Auroville maintained mud roads and we have some paved roads. There we have certain checkposts where we are asking them why you are going in, what is the purpose. So they are filtering. That's the reason why within Auroville we are still able to maneuver and move around without much difficulty. Otherwise, there are number of entry points which can allow people to crisscross through villages, and they're all using two-wheelers these days. In the past, they were cycling. Now, they're all having motorbikes and scooters.
Oh, yes.
So we are trying to filter that, but it's not easy always because they can be upset if they say, we are from the village, you can't stop us. And in a way, they are public roads, though Auroville has the property right and the access. So there is a certain level of access we need to give.
It's a challenging thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I want to share an intuitive thing that has come to me and get your opinion and perhaps the secretary, of course. There are hundreds and hundreds of people a day going to the viewing point of the Matrimandir. And the Matrimandir needs funds.
Yes.
Is there not a way that they could offer a donation of 50 or 100 rupees perhaps to view that? It could mean lakhs per month.
Yes, yes. I mean, personally, I won't agree with that proposal because it has always been a principle, if I understand from Auroville, that it is a place one should come and experience. One can donate, but the moment it becomes a kind of a fees or a ticket, I think it'll lose its very purpose. So
even though these people are just visitors and want to see the gold dome?
I think from that point of view, the visitor center, they have made it a point that, if you want to visit the place, well, you go through the whole process. There is a visitor center, so they have boutiques and all. So they do some shopping. So, and they spend at least a couple of hours, which means they have to eat something. So thereby they are contributing something. But it's not like an entry ticket or anything, which I have a feeling which would not be good because they will have a right to see.
What if it were purely voluntarily?
It's happening. They have a couple of places where they can make a donation.
Okay.
For land, for Matrimandir.
Oh.
And Auroville products are also a sort of a souvenir that they can buy, which are at a certain price higher than usual for the quality and for the purpose that they are contributing for a cause of Auroville.
Okay.
And these days they have charged parking fees also quite reasonably high. This is what I get to know,
I see.
which was not there in the past. So Auroville definitely benefits from the visitors, but not through the entry fees.
Good. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's very good. Aurovillians that you meet, what special context do you have with some of them?
Some of them are wonderful people because they are from different parts of the world I find wonderful human beings, and some of them are so evolved. I really admire at their sincere and devout aspiration and sadhana that they do. Because of such people in Auroville, Auroville still exists and it grows. And they are from different parts of the world. And some of them are wonderful people and highly knowledgeable on many systems, many spiritual paths, many philosophies. A lot of them are scholars in Sanskrit. So, and all the scriptures in India, it's like you meet a variety of sadhaks who are, I think, masters in their own field. And be it, Ayurveda, be it acupuncture, be it, healing and astrology, yoga, Hatha Yoga. I'm amazed at the capacities that you discover in Auroville, skills of language, intuition, clairvoyance, a lot of things. So I feel quite enriched with number of Aurovillians, and I learn a lot from them.
About children of Auroville?
They're very special. I feel they're very, very special. They're free spirits, and I think the parents have a great responsibility to guide them, because what Mother had said, I believe, Auroville is a place for new creation. I think it is definitely starting to happen, and we need to be a little careful in nurturing the children, guiding them, otherwise they can be lost. So I see some of them are beautiful spirits, beautiful beings. They say you can see from their eyes, from their smiles, from their expressions, I think the future of Auroville, like any other country, is in the children. And Auroville children, I feel they are special, they are blessed. So we have a great responsibility to create a child-centric society. I think it is Kirit Bhai who had said that child should be the center of the planning, education, and the city development and organization. And I think it is prophetic. We need to really, really look at that. And I see some of them are brilliant minds and very fine human beings. They are growing to be.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming. It was a wonderful time to spend with you.
Thank you.
Namaste all.
Namaste.
And thank you for joining us.